Hey everybody, Rodman here. Thanks for tuning in to Kerbal Space Program. So, last episode we landed our Duna missions, and this episode I started with just looking at what phase our RHD-18 ship was in. Not one able to yet intercept with Kerbin, so I'm not going to worry about that. I should have stayed in the tracking station though, because I'll be looking for easy to scoop up asteroids. So let's go ahead and turn off all of the toggled stuff here and just track unknown and space objects. And let's find an appropriate, meaning small, asteroid to grab. All of these, the smallest is a Class B. So what I could do is just accelerate time, and it will have some asteroids disappear and new asteroids reappear. And you can change your selection of what random asteroids there are to track out there just by honestly being patient and fast forwarding time. So, of course, not a single one of them are small or teeny. Some of these have really weird orbits. Okay, there we go. Here's the teeny one. So let's track that one. And it's going to intercept eventually. And yeah, however that looks, let's make an effort to go for it. So let's focus on Kerbin or the Mun. That's a pretty reasonable orbit to match, and it's going to be just outside of min-miss, so it's not that bad. A nice light one. It's teeny, so it's not a great one to mine into, but I will anyway, just because why not? So we're going to design a little craft for this. Not so little, but it's going to it's going to be different from RHD Asteroid in enough ways, because RHD Asteroid failed mostly because it relied on robotics that I don't think played well with the asteroid, and that was a bummer. I was really hoping that it would have worked. Alright, so what we're going to do instead is just put a structural pylon on the top here. I'm not going to really engineer it all that much. So let's go to structural. And I'll have a little, I need a bigger adapter than that. There's the adapter. And a structural tube. And then go back to coupling and a grabber unit. One thing I could do, if I was so inclined, is, well, first, let's go ahead and move these up a bit so we can actually mine them, because it needs to deploy into the asteroid. I probably don't need that. It doesn't really matter where they are. Okay. The next thing I could do to change this up a bit is this does not appear to have any lights on the front. Although I do somewhat recall putting lights on the last one, but let's go ahead and put some lights. There we go. If I could do them correctly. Alright, so now we'll be able to see what we're mining and what we're grabbing. We'll keep all the RCS. All the lovely RCS that allows us to do some controls. I'm not exactly sure that the RCS underneath the inline reaction here is doing very much. But, you know, whatever. We could pretend it is. Then, additionally, there is a lot of probably unnecessary added weight here in the form of ore tanks. And, even monoprop fuel. So I will lighten the ship up a bit. Checking its thrust to weight. It's a little bit better thrust to weight now than it was before. Let's see. Batteries that don't matter. I'm not gonna mess with the solar power panels, although I did hit undo and it didn't really put that back. There we go. Undo again. Alright, so there's a lot of solar power on this thing. Yeah, this is my new and improved, or unimproved, because I kind of preferred the last one, but it didn't work. RHD asteroid. I'm going to go ahead and launch. So what I'm looking to do is to have a really small orbit that matches the same plane as the asteroid in the same direction, whether it be clockwise or counterclockwise. Yeah. So let's go zoom out again and track, set as target. So now we can sort of see how this launch is going to be. We can actually, well, all right. You're about to not hear me, so I'm going to change the volume here. Alright, so I lowered it for you by, I don't know, a few dozen decibels. For me, I just took off my headset, so I can actually see/hear what I'm doing. So we do have a target vector here, which I can angle for, which is very, very useful. So the idea behind a low orbit is so that we can easily match and intercept, you know. If it was a wide orbit that kind of mimicked it, it'd be harder to plot and intercept to be able to get it. I'm also, honestly, launching at a particularly bad time. I should have waited until I was about this point here. So you know what I could do? Let's just do it correctly. Let's launch when we are on the right plane, because I haven't really been doing that, and I might as well. So, launch. Do it right, not do it twice. Or do it. But yeah, let's go do it again. Time for some deafening rocket noises. Alright, so what I'm going to do is wait. We are going to zoom out, set it as a target, and then wait for us to be able to adjust our axis. Oh, right there. Perfect. Done, and launched. Alright. It's not perfect, but it's closer. It's definitely closer. So if you can imagine, I want to sort of angle the ship down that way while I launch, so that we're more closely matching the plane of the asteroid. And then the ETA of this asteroid is about 100 days. Okay, I know there's not much to look at right now, so let's go back in here. And up, and away we go. So I shaved off some monopropellant, but we still have 1500. I got rid of some batteries, and some ore storage. So the ore storage only goes up to 900, but that's plenty of ore storage. If you're constantly converting the ore into fuel, you really don't need a lot of ore storage, because when you acquire it, you just convert it. And then, yeah. That will be good. Alright, so I'm about to lose the solid boost stage. A little bit longer. The other worry is, I'm pretty sure I'll have connection to Kerbal Space Center with the antennae that I have on the ship, but that's been a recurring theme of not having connections. So let's see, we want to, if I wanted to put this down, yeah, we would be angling up a bit, like this. I just gave myself a little maneuver to tell me exactly what angle it's going to be at. Alright, so as you can see, we're sort of, we're matching the plane kind of as well as I can. Eyeballing it, so that when we circularize, we're closer to it. As you can see, the ascension node here, where the indicator of the plane is pretty much constantly changing. So I'm going to wait until my APO is the approximate 70K, as it should be, and then we can circularize. And we have the right direction too. You got to make sure it's entering from here, exiting from here, because this says escape. If it was coming the other direction, I'd be circularizing the other way. Because you don't want to intercept something head on. You're just not going to be able to grab it very effectively if you're just smashing into it. Yeah. Alright, so we have an APO of 70K. I'm going to raise this up just a little bit more to like 85 or so. Yep, there we go. And then we can add a maneuver to circularize, and then we'll add a maneuver to match the plane more carefully once we're circularized. Alright, so there we have periaps, apoaps of roughly the same amount. 85, 130. There we go. Let's see. 75, 90. Give it a little oomph. I'm just trying to make it. Okay, yeah. That's a pretty circularized orbit. Okay, let's point towards the maneuver node. Just giving it a little thrust. Oops. And we're about to stage off a lot of stuff, so... Alright, there goes that big, bulky stage. And now for the general circularization. On roughly the same plane. Roughly. It's not perfect. 6 degrees off, but it's better than nothing. If I want to start correcting it, I'll start correcting it now. So I'm not exactly on the maneuver node, but I think this is the we're getting. I'm just gonna worry about circularization for right now. Actually, I'm not gonna worry too much about ascending, and then actually I'm going to point upwards a little bit because we're coming back down towards Kerbal. I want to get some more altitude because I'm falling. I'd rather not fall back to Kerbal. We have a thrust to weight ratio enough to climb out of that. It's a bad job of circularization. I will admit to that. At this point, I can probably raise the volume of the ship back up a bit, as it's not horribly deafening. Alright, so now we've blasted upwards enough to put our APO right where we are. And I'm just going to do this by eyeball. Alright. Go the other way. Ascending node. Descending node is decreasing. Decreasing means we're getting closer to the correct plane. Alright. And orbit. Cool. Now, my next maneuver is going to be right here, where we correct the difference of planes here. There we go. So let's warp to that maneuver. It's a 200 delta V maneuver. If we had just launched to the equator, right, and do an equatorial orbit, this would be a much higher delta V change. It would require a lot more fuel and burn time. So trying to match it initially does pay off. All my hotkeys are probably different, so 0 still controls the solar power panels. A slightly less heavy rocket, not by much. The stage is still pretty heavy. Alright, that's probably good enough. Turn off the RCS. Our solar power panels are on, which means we're generating power. And then, all we gotta do is go to the tracking station and accelerate time until, well, the asteroid's coming. You could plan your maneuver, you could plan your intercept now, but I find it's easier just to accelerate time. And then I'll also keep an eye on our RHD-18 flight, making sure that we potentially rescue it if there's a chance to intercept Kerbal, which there is not yet, but we'll get there. Alright, so it has a very... Okay, let's slow it down. It's a very long encounter. Alright, back to RHD-18. Where are you? Or RHD asteroid. There it is. Let's go grab this asteroid. So I had tried to do that before, and the robotic parts failed me. Or I didn't design it right. I don't really know what the flaw was. Alright, so the asteroid is here. And I'm going to do what amounts to basically a min-miss transfer to grab it. And what I need to do is time my burn to intercept it, which will be a burn like this. Alright, and we change the timing of that burn just by seconds, and we either hit it or miss it. So this is a separation of 165 kilometers. 169. All right, let's go 100. Yeah, let's go change the scale here and adjust some parameters, although ever so slightly, to get a proper meet and greet. Alright, separation just got worse. Let's go the other direction. Let's see. What's wrong with this separation? Where are we failing? It is... axis is lower or higher. And that's because of our... we're not totally on the right plane. And then some of it is just timing. So let's time the burn to be a little bit later, and it should work. It's all about timing. Alright, that's 160. 160 is doable, but not ideal. I usually try to go for, like, teens. But this is a pretty far-flung intercept, meaning we're changing orbits significantly to match it. Alternatively, you know what I'm going to do? Actually, I'm going to try to pick this thing up on its periaps so that I can meet it more easily. So what I'm going to do, actually, is let's go scrap this whole idea. Next, at the next ascension node, I'm going to correct my plane. The 0.2 degree difference. Alright, so it's a... Oops. I accidentally fired up my engines and screwed that up. 0.3 degree difference. Okay. Warp to next mover. And then try to grab it at its periaps, because it is closest to me at its periaps. And that way I have less travel time. Less distance. All that good enough stuff. Alright. Let's see. I'm going to thrust limit all of this stuff extraordinarily so I can do fine-tune changes here. So I'm going to start rotating toward my maneuver, thrust limiting all of it to 4%. All looks pretty good. Alright, that's probably about as good as we need it to be. Yes. Alright, so next up, our Apo here. We are going to try to grab it at its periaps. And what we're going to do here is do it not on this orbit, but future orbits. Planning a maneuver multiple orbits away. Yep, and our intersection is already better because I fixed the plane and I'm going at a periaps. So, let's get a really good separation here. No target. Come on, game. Why would you untarget me? I didn't touch anything. Alright, separation of 14 kilometers. That seems pretty good to me. Pretty darn good. Alright, let's go ahead and thrust limit this up to 30%. Doing a little bit of a sensitive burn here. So it's not full thrust, but not nothing. And this is mostly for my control. Alright, warp to next maneuver. And, alright, so we actually are not going to warp to next maneuver here. It's in 4 days. So let's warp ahead 3 and some change days so we don't have to time warp super slowly. So, 103... Come on. 104. 1 day has passed. 2 days have passed. 3 days have passed. Alright. That's probably enough time passage. Just to try to speed this up. Maneuver node. Warp to next maneuver. It's in just a day and a few minutes. Hopefully you can excuse the amount of time this will take. I'm going to wait until it's just hours left and then try to accelerate that hour time a bit better. Alright, so 5 hours, 6 hours. Back to the tracking station. Let's do this a little manually. 6 hours ahead is what we're aiming for. So it's 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, my little ship. You have your time difference. You're probably still going to require more maneuvering and more time forwarding. But let's see. The asteroid's in this position. I'm right here. Maneuver is in 2 hours. And if I want to change this maneuver a little bit, I could slow down time and modify it just a little bit. I like the graphical... Okay, you don't want me to. Fine, I'll warp to it. I don't need to edit it. 14 kilometers is plenty. If I can get that exactly, that'd be great. Or get something close to it. Now, its relative velocity, to me, is really significantly different. So I will have to do a big old acceleration to be able to grab this thing. But I was expecting that, and that's fine. Now, at this point, it's pretty safe to say that this is one of the last missions I'm going to have. So if you have things that you absolutely want to see in Kerbal Space Program in this series before this series ends, speak up now or forever hold your peace. I wouldn't say the series is necessarily ended, but until it picks back up and possibly is resurrected sometime in the future. Is that a better way of describing it, perhaps? Yes. So I have to get a asteroid in orbit of Kerbin. So all I'm really going to be doing to this asteroid is slowing it down once I attach, so that it doesn't eject and escape, but actually becomes a natural satellite of Kerbin. Natural satellites being moons and the like. And then I'll have completed this this beautiful contract here. I am a little bit low on fuel, partially by design, meaning I don't have a hell of a lot of Delta V. I have enough to get this thing, no problem. But and partially because I can just go ahead and mine the asteroid for ore and convert it on the fly, if I so wish, making the asteroid even less massive. Alright, so I do believe it's on this pass that I will do the maneuver. And then this YML 850 rather, is going to be in my proverbial backyard. What's interesting is, well, here's some crazy facts. So, asteroids pass between the Earth and the Moon often. We often notice, not always, we don't always know when this happens. Oops. And you know how big space is? The distance between Earth and the Moon? Every other single planet lined up can fit in the distance between Earth and the Moon, meaning that the 4 gas giants could fit. So, yeah, it sounds creepy that something came between us and the Moon, like the Moon is some sort of precious you know, our personal space or whatever. But, yeah, you could fit Jupiter between Earth and Moon, and then Saturn, and then Uranus, and then Neptune. Yeah, they all could fit between the Earth and the Moon. Pretty crazy thought, but it's true. You're welcome to look it up yourself. So we're a little bit off course by about 80 kilometers, but I'm not all that concerned. Once we have the transfer burn, we can do adjustments to it. What I can say is the thrust limiter here really making it a pleasure to control this thing. It's not bucking, it's not angry, it's not trying to throw me off course. It's just happy going about its business. But yeah, I mean, if humans manage to put an asteroid in orbit between us and the moon, that'd be really cool. We've landed some satellites on asteroids, like twice, maybe? But it's pretty complicated. And grabbing one, we've never tried. And then changing the orbit of one, oh boy. Like, the stuff of fiction for now. It would be possible to... There are theories about how to deflect asteroids. The problem is, it depends on what the asteroid's made out of. Because some asteroids are just sort of loosely grouped ice and rock, like a snowball, but more like a sandball, an icy sandball. So, you know, some thoughts to steer an asteroid off course would be to nuke it. But nuking sand isn't all that effective because you don't really move the sand, and then you also turned one big asteroid strike into many asteroid strikes. So it might not be better, you might just be increasing the chance that it won't hit the ocean, like the Pacific, and hit a urban center instead. Another way is to just park something near it and sort of tow it a little bit, which is an odd principle, but it could work if we found the asteroid in time. Alright, looks like I need to make some legitimate adjustments so that I can have a rendezvous here. So I better focus at the task at hand. Separation of about 100 kilometers. Let's go check that out. Why are we missing? We are missing because we're not close enough? Okay. Whoa, 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 whoa. Way wrong scale. I'm trying to change a meter per second or so, and it's like, how about we go huge? Alright, there we go. What's that separation? 5 kilometers? I would say I made some positive changes. 3 kilometers? Alright, let's warp to next maneuver and get that maneuver done. Now, the RCS might throw this off a little bit, depending if the RCS is truly just rotating me or is it thrusting me in a direction. It's hard to tell for sure until I've done the maneuver. I also want to keep some RCS fuel for when it's time to actually capture it. I don't want to burn it all up. Alright, so how good is that? That looks awful, but it's actually probably really, really good. Let me just... Yeah. If we adjust it by almost nothing at all... Whoa, that's way a lot of adjustment. Alright, let's do that again. Adjust by Slow down by almost nothing. We're back to a separation of... Yeah, I'm not going to game this separation out. I think a separation of 10 kilometers. Alright. Let's just tap the brakes a little bit. 0.1 meters per second. And make this adjustment. And then the next adjustment I can make is when I'm out a little bit closer. To fine-tune it. Alright. I'm going to warp to here. And now I can fine-tune this adjustment a little bit easier. Now that I'm closer. And let's see. For a change of a few. That's a really ugly maneuver. Let me try to pretty it up a bit. Alright, 145 kilometers. Oops, I wasn't holding on. You know what I could do is let's just go to target here. And I could just change my thrust to center myself on it better. I'm not getting out there yet. Alright, so let me just change. Rather than try to adjust it, come on. Alright, so at this point, I've done a little bit of burn. And let me fiddle with a maneuver that will get me happy. Separation is pretty bad. This one's going to be a lot better, I bet. 600. Oh, I see the issue. It's hard to, like, sort of visualize 3D space. So pretty much the whole burn that I did is going to be partially undone. 400. Man, I had it so delicate, didn't I? And then I just went and putzed about, right? That's a little bit better. It's just the amount of fine-tuning this is a little painful. It's like a watchmaker's task or something, you know? Alright, here we go. What I'll do is I'll overshoot it. Alright, I will just correct it and try to get as close as I can, and then I can just manually fly towards it. So I think at this point I'm at let's see, 50 kilometer difference. Let's bring that down as much as I can. I wish the scale could even go lower, but it can't. I understand why it can't. Alright, 7 kilometer difference. That's good and fine. $30 delta V. It's a very sharp trajectory, but that's okay. Warp to the maneuver. Come on, RCS. Work. Darn you. Alright, there we go. Alright, good enough. 50 kilometers off. Let's warp a day and ahead and snatch ourselves this beautiful bounty. Alright, there we go. So the speed difference between us is not insignificant. So let's go ahead and start correcting for it. So where is this? There it is. This thing is moving nice and slow, and I'm about to accelerate. So we're going to go flip-flop point retrograde. But not perfectly retrograde, partially retrograde. I'm going to fire it up. I'm going to keep my ship thrust limited for now, just for controllability's sake. Alright, but I don't want retrograde. I'm going to arm. And now, as you can see, I'm cutting the speed difference between me and the asteroid, so that I'm putting myself on roughly the same arc exit as it has. And then what I'm going to do is let some time pass and have it get closer to me. And then I'll accelerate so it doesn't slam into me. So it's pretty close. So now the speed differences between us are only 50 meters per second. And I want it to pass me so I can attach from the back. Now we're kind of floating in the same space. And what I'm going to do now is catch it. So I'm going to point prograde, or towards it, rather. I just have to, come on, ship. Find its center of, or its trajectory before it escapes me. This ship is a cumbersome beast. Alright. Stupid ship, stop tumbling, start pointing. I put RCS on you for a reason. Part of the problem is, due to its symmetry, it's hard to have a point of reference. And if I had a really good pilot on here, that I could just say, hey, point towards the asteroid, that would work. But I don't have that. Alright, there we go. Oh, I almost hit it. I'm putzing about here. This is not my best work. Alright, target difference is about 1 mile an hour. There we go. So now at this point, I'm going to go into docking mode and go into linear and change my linear trajectory so I'm pointing straight at it. And then as it approaches me, I will go back into staging mode and actually blast towards it. And let it approach me, and then just keep micro-adjusting. Ah, no. Docking. Let's rotate to look towards it. And then linear to then angle towards it. Just like you do with a ship rendezvous. This ship really likes to get off center. That's alright. I'll just keep fighting it. Alright, so our trajectories are matched. Now I just need to look at it, towards it. Done. Keep centering it up. Alright, that's pretty as centered as it's going to be. So here we go. As you can see, it's not very massive, which makes it easy to move around. And now I've grabbed it. Ta-da! Alright, so now I need to point retrograde so that I don't escape Kerbal. And I can see how much resources it has. So now I'm pointing retrograde. I can just start. Well, what I'll do is I'll wait until the periaps, and then I'll fire retrograde. But in the meantime, what I could do is put my solar power panels up. I'm now pointing retrograde so that I can slow down, deploy the drill. I don't have an engineer on here, but start asteroid harvesting. And as you can see here, my I don't have any radiators to dissipate heat, as these drills will generate heat. But my ore is going up, so I'm technically mining an asteroid. And I can speed physics warp here. Or even just time warp, because I'm waiting for the periaps. And as you can see, you know what? Before I lose connection with anything, I should extend my antenna. Yep, there we go. Now my connection's a lot better. All right, let's warp to the periaps. Ta-da! We have 117 ore. I'm going to, then I can click on here and convert the ore to fuel. So as you can see, our fuel will slightly go up and the ore go down. But I'm going to use the fuel right now to put us into Kerbal orbit. And there we are. All I got to do now, well, I'll lower the orbit, but all we really would need to do is to cut the engines, and we're good. We completed this contract here. But I'll put us into a lower orbit, just because I can. Bring this a little closer to home, because I got the fuel. We'll stop at 1 million. Or around 1 million. Alright, so now at the periaps, I'm going to do the same thing. To circularize it a little bit. So, warp to next maneuver. 5 days away. And as you can see here, the contract just completed. And as time goes on, as you can see, my fuel's going up. I'm actually refueling the ship with the ore that I have. This asteroid, I think, is tapped, is what it's saying. Status operational, yeah. It didn't have a lot of ore. This is why you wouldn't really want to bother mining, well, okay. So, if I had a really good engineer, I could have gotten more ore out of it, or whatever. But it's also why you don't tend to mine asteroids anyway in Kerbal Space Program, because they just don't allow you to convert a lot of ore to fuel, especially not these teeny ones. But then, of course, if you did Minmus, you'd have unlimited ore. Minmus doesn't have a finite amount of resources, and it has really, really, really low gravity. So you could absolutely mine Minmus for fuel and put it on a space station that orbits Minmus, and that would be quite renewable. But doing this with an asteroid, not as realistic. So all I'm doing here is putting it into a somewhat cylindrical orbit, and I could see about how much fuel it would cost to flatten this out, if I really cared. Let's see. Let's say Mun's our target, because I know Mun's plane is about 0. And this is going to cost more Delta V than I even have on my ship, or just about the last of it, which I'm okay with. I mean, this was the purpose of the run. Alright. There we go. That is a nice flat. Nice flat orbit. Something like that. Alright. So let's go ahead and warp to that maneuver. So the efficiencies of ore conversion and stuff like that is based upon, like right now, it's because I don't have any radiators. So the ship's too hot thermally because the process generated a lot of heat. And if I had radiators and an engineer, I could actually convert this stuff, but I don't have either. So the conversion process is a little lengthier. Alright, so we're moving to our maneuver, and we'll put this in, we're basically adding a new moon, albeit a small one, a new moon to Kerbal. So radiators tend to look just like a solar panel, but all they do is radiate heat, very much like the CPU radiators on your computer. Same sort of concept. Except for the CPU radiators radiate heat into air and makes the air around them warmer. The radiators for a spaceship are a little bit different. Okay, something here happened, and let's see. The game crashed. Well, guys, instead of re-recording that, I'm going to roll credits and call that completed, because we were really not going to do anything else with that little asteroid. So if there's other missions that you would like to see in Kerbal Space Program, you got to drop me a line and let me know. I will think of some myself. There's probably a very few episodes left, sorry to say. Thank you all for watching. Thanks for the viewers that still support this series, and I'll catch you all next time. Adios.